Hey, it's Isabella Taylor, Australia's youngest interviewer here, and welcome to the Inspired By podcast. Do you wake up excited to start your day? I've been an inspirational story chaser since I was 6 years old. Everyone I've interviewed loves what they do, and to them, it's not work. I'm so excited. Are you ready? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go, people! Daniel J. Phillips, writer-director of feature film Awoken, owner and creative director of Anomaly. As a kid, he had a love of films, and with passion and determination, this has taken him on an incredible journey to directing TV commercials, producing short films, including one that won multiple awards, and his debut feature film Awoken. Daniel shares advice for young people aspiring to become a part of the film industry.
Daniel J. Phillips, writer-director of feature film Awoken, owner and creative director at Anomaly, a full-service creative agency specialising in web development, video production and digital marketing, and this year named among South Australia's top young business people in the InDaily 40 Under 40 Awards. Welcome Daniel J. Phillips to Inspired by Headquarters. It is very exciting to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited also.
You were born in Adelaide, South Australia. From our research into Daniel J. Phillips, probably the most outstanding feature is that you possess the rare ability to combine creative with a keen sense of business acumen. When was your earliest recollection that you had an innate ability to both navigate and influence the outcome of situations as you encountered them?
Wow, that is a good question. One of the things that I did when I was younger, because lots of creative people have a million jobs when they're starting off being creative, and one of the first jobs that I had was in sales. So I was trained formally how to sell things and not in a creative industry at all. And I think that sort of sales training that I was given very early on, because I was very good at selling stuff, that sales training early on allowed me to navigate situations, think on my feet, and also very much helped the businesses in the future, because I was able to draw on those skills to kind of push things forward.
Were there specific incidences that stand out in your memory, particularly some that led you to becoming interested in filmmaking?
Yeah, I think I always wanted to be a filmmaker from a very young age. When I was a kid, I digested a lot of movies. I had a VCR and a TV in my room, and I just watched a lot of stuff all the time. And this was back in the days when you used to be able to record movies off of TV. So there were lots of movies on TV that I would record and watch again and again and again. And I knew that I wanted to do whatever that was, but didn't really know what that was yet. So as I got older, I started learning more about it and doing lots of writing especially. It's just something I've always wanted to do, always wanted to make movies.
Following your completion of high school, what qualifications did you pursue to become a filmmaker?
I studied the Bachelor of Creative Arts at Flinders University, which I graduated from in 2006. And I found that although that course was good as a base level to begin with, it didn't really give me the skills that I needed to actually work in the industry. The most beneficial thing about that course was meeting like-minded people and being inspired by them and wanting to work with them on projects. And in fact, one of the people I met at uni got me my first job in the industry in Sydney. I worked as an editor on a TV show. So I think that the best way to learn about something is to do it, and especially in filmmaking. I think there's no course that I've seen that really teaches you the practical skills to do something. I think just volunteering and getting involved and being on film sets and reading lots of books and understanding how it works is the best way to educate yourself about that particular industry.
Having completed your studies at university, how long did you take to reach the decision to establish Anomaly, and how did you develop your skills during that time?
I wanted to make a short film when I returned home from Sydney to Adelaide. And I wasn't quite sure how to go about that, but I knew that I needed to set things up correctly and establish a company. So the first iteration of Anomaly was actually called Anomaly Media a very long time ago. and I started that business, and the first thing that I did with it was produce a short film called Being Nowhere, which is a very old film which I won't show anybody because it's very old. But from there, there were a few offers to produce some corporate content and get paid for what I was doing, which to me was crazy that someone would pay me to direct stuff in Adelaide, So that's kind of how it started. I started doing a sort of job here or there, and then suddenly it just became this thing, and we built this big business, and here we are.
When you made that short film that you said you wouldn't show anybody, at what year did you make that?
I think it was finished in 2011.
What was the sort of theme around that?
The movie was about a man trapped in purgatory between the world of the living and the world of the dead, and him trying to understand what he had done wrong to be there, him learning from the mistakes and ultimately being brave to release himself from that environment. And it was a very, very long short film. It was about 40 minutes, the first cut that I did, so I had no idea how to make something short, but we eventually ended up with a 25-minute edit. And I'm very proud of the production value that we got out of that film, and the people I worked with were people that I went on to work with for years. And it was a good learning experience. It was really good.
Which hardship stand out as the most difficult to have overcome, and what did it take for you to not give up as so many people do?
I think anyone who wants to have a career in the film industry is going to be prepared for some hardship, because it's, people say that it's very competitive. It's not necessarily, I think, that it's competitive. I think that it's difficult because what you're doing is you're trying to make something for people you don't know. And when you don't know those people, you don't know what they're going to want. So your particular taste or what you're creating, you don't know whether you're making something that anyone's going to like or watch or want. So it's very difficult to know whether your work's good or not, and it's very easy to become, to lose motivation in your own sort of talent or your own drive, because it often feels like there's a million no's before you get to one yes. And I think that, the hardship for me was definitely trying to make this feature film, Awoken. It's my first feature film. It was incredibly complicated to do. It took about 6 years from when we started to now. Obviously, it's been released all over the world now, and it's doing well. But it was a hell of a time to get to that point. And there were lots of times where it nearly fell over, lots of times where people said we were crazy, and we just kept going, and it's a testament to the people I was working with just as much as myself, because a film is not made by one person, a film is made by hundreds of people. And I was very fortunate to be surrounded by extremely passionate, motivated people that helped me get there, because there were a lot of times when it nearly didn't happen. So,
in your incredible journey, how important were mentors in bringing about the success that you have enjoyed?
Mentors are extremely important to me and to anyone, I think, who's trying to be ambitious and achieve something kind of bigger than some others. I think that for me, one of the big mentors I had was actually my sales manager when I was in sales back in the day, before I was really in the film industry full time. He was incredibly important to me because he taught me about how people think. He taught me about what they want and how to give them something in return for them giving you something. So I think lots of people think that sales or these kinds of things is about taking something from someone, but it's not. It's actually about you giving them something and them giving you something in return, and the value being equal between you. And I see that very similar to what it's like actually working in film, believe it or not, is that you are selling an idea or a moment or a shot or an emotion to an audience, and there needs to be an exchange there where if you're just trying to take something from them, it's not going to work. It'll feel contrived, it'll feel false, it'll feel like you're manipulating the audience. Whereas if there's a value exchange where you give them something and they get something in return, that's what I think makes good stuff. So that was one mentor that was extremely important to me. And there's been others along the way, for sure, but he's certainly a standout for me.
In a television commercial, you have a very short time to convey a message. How does this contrast to making a film?
Television commercials are very difficult to make. The good thing about television commercials is you normally don't run out of money to make them. when you're making a film, there's never enough money and there's never enough time, whereas with TV commercials, there normally is. The problem with TV commercials is that there are a lot of chefs in the kitchen. There's, in the times when I used to work with other advertising agencies, there was always the client, which was multiple people. There was the ad agency, which was multiple people. And then there was us, which was multiple people. And then somewhere in there is the director, which is me, that needs to somehow cobble all this together. So the problem is in those situations is that there's so many different stakeholders and people that want to have their input that you end up with something that becomes not really, it doesn't commit to one direction. It's very sort of just flat. That's what I found in my experience anyway. So it's difficult making TV commercials because you have to deal with so many different people. And conveying a story or a message is extremely difficult in a TV commercial. But I think that if you have a good script, like anything, and if you really understand the power of an image and what it can tell and how, the cliche of an image tells 1,000 words is absolutely true. I've seen some fantastic ads made in my time that, sometimes you can convey an emotional experience in 30 seconds that can be more important than an entire film. So commercials can be extremely powerful.
Congratulations on your new debut feature film, Awoken, which you produced, directed and co-wrote and was filmed at Hendon Studios.
Thank you.
What inspired yourself and Alan Grace to write this very unique storyline for this suspense mystery horror film?
I was having breakfast one day with a good friend of mine called Jake, and he told me about this story that he read on a website called Creepypasta, which is a very famous kind of horror stories website. And it was a story called The Russian Sleep Experiment, which a lot of people are familiar with. It went viral. It was a very, very cool story, and people said it was a true story and all this stuff. And he said that I should take a look at it because it could be an interesting basis for a film. So I had a read of that, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but there were some elements in there that were really interesting. And the sleeplessness part, making people go a bit crazy, was something that was very interesting to me. And for years I'd sort of had issues sleeping and things like that, and although I never went crazy, hopefully, I certainly did know what it was like to lose sleep over things. So I did a bit of research into that, and I knew that my first feature film needed to be something that was affordable and very, very cost effective. So I thought the best way to do that would be to try and confine the space that the film was set in. So therefore that led me to a playwright, which is Alan Grace, who's used to writing plays, which are all very contained. And I thought it would be a good way to confine what I had previously done, because every time I tried to make something small, it ended up being something big. So I needed someone to keep me in check to make sure that I could make something that was achievable and small. And Alan was very good at doing that. So the two of us started to work together on the script and worked together very well. And yeah, he's a great writer, and I'm very privileged to have been able to work with him.
Is South Australia the place to be for budding filmmakers at this point in time?
Yes, absolutely. South Australia is about to explode in regards to how much film production is coming here. There are huge companies that have set up shop here in the last few years, including Technicolor and Matchbox Pictures and all of that. There's lots of people that are coming here to make movies. There is nothing but potential here in South Australia, and I think that, with recent successes like Mortal Kombat and things like that being made here, I think that there's going to be nothing but growth in South Australia. We have everything here we need. We have the locations, we have the facilities. We also have the crew. I wish we had more crew, because if we had more crew, we could do more productions at once. And that's the one thing that's holding us back, which I am working on a solution to try and solve that problem. But I also think with the new CEO at the South Australian Film Corporation, Kate Crozer, I think the new direction she's pushing things in is absolutely right. And I think she's very much about stimulating production. So I'm very excited about it. So I think the old days of you had to be in Sydney to be a filmmaker are gone. I think that now, especially after the pandemic and all of that, I think that South Australia's proven it's a very, very viable place to make movies. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do.
What advice would you offer to young people aspiring to becoming part of the film industry?
The most important thing that I would recommend for people wanting to enter the film industry, for young people, is to not get caught up into what has become a culture of permission. So what I mean by that is that in the Australian film industry, a lot of the way that the finance works for short films or feature films is all based on government funding, which is where the competitiveness comes into it. People are trying to get grants, they don't get them, some people do. And they have entered into this culture of permission where they feel that they need someone to give them permission to make their film, whether it's a government agency or it's federal agency, whatever it is, whoever's giving them the money. I think that in my career, there was heaps of times where I didn't get funding at all, and I had to go out and raise the money, and I did. I made a short film called The Martyr, and we did a crowdfunding campaign, and we raised $17,000, and we made a film, and we didn't get any funding from the government for that. So I think my advice is to just do it. And I know that everybody says that, but I think that it's really important. The reason that Awoken got made is because I got turned down for funding again. So I came off the back of a very successful short film that won a huge amount of awards, and I tried to get funding for a second short film, and it was, in my opinion, criminal that I didn't get that money considering the other people that were involved in the project. Not just myself, other people, and the script was very good. So I was so mad about not getting the funding that I just decided, that's it, I'm just going to make a feature film. I'm sick of trying to get money for short films. They're not giving us money anyway. Let's just make a feature film. And that decision to do that, I remember exactly where I was. I was in my kitchen and I was very angry. And I decided, that's it, I'm going to make this movie. And that was the thing that started everything. From then we started figuring out how to do it. So anyone who makes a feature film has never made a feature film before. So anyone can do it. Everyone doesn't know what they're doing the first time. And in many cases, lots of people I know still don't know what they're doing, but they continue to make movies. So my advice is to just do it. If you're passionate about something, just go and do it. The only thing that's stopping you is you. So after I made the decision to make Awoken, it was a very long process of understanding how to finance a film, how to really write a feature film, how to direct a feature film. There were lots of things that needed to happen. So one of the things that I was very good at was sales and selling, and I knew that I needed to raise some money to do it. So I knew that Screen Australia were not interested in genre films as much as they say they are. They are not interested in genre films. They only make one type of film. And the film that I wanted to make was not that type of film. So I spoke to certain clients from my advertising agency who, I thought might have the ability to invest. And from there started a process of talking to multiple people and putting a proposition to them about investing in the film. And we raised some money, and we were fortunate enough to get Greg McLean, who was the director of the Wolf Creek films, as our script editor, which was pretty much the biggest authority in horror in Australia, to help us get our script polished. And we engaged an international sales agent, an Australian distributor, and then started the process of casting. And we actually had a very big A-lister attached to the project, and he was all set to go, and at the very last minute it sort of fell over right when we were sort of weeks away from starting. So that was a big blow. There were lots of times when the producers and myself, because there were other producers, I would be directing on set, and they would come down and say, like in between takes, which is very, when you're directing, you're very, very focused, and it's a very stressful environment. There's lots at stake. You're spending lots of money every day to get what you're getting, and you need to make sure that you're doing a good job every moment when you're a director. There's no sort of time off, I guess. I remember being on set and the producers coming down and putting me offset between takes and saying, now just so you know, Dan, we need to raise $100,000 by the end of the day, or we have to shut down the production tomorrow. So I'm just going to need you to make some calls at lunch and try and raise that money. But don't worry about that now. You just go and direct. You just focus on making the movie, and we'll sort that out later. Okay, bye. So then I had to somehow not completely freak out about the fact that the movie was going to fall over unless I somehow pulled $100,000 out of a hat. And luckily I was able to make some calls and get some more money for us. But it's sort of, that's the kind of the day. It's not just about getting the film off the ground and making it. There are daily catastrophes and stresses that a lot of people don't know about and don't see, that only the people who are, kind of at the top of that hierarchy that have to make those decisions and raise that money and, do all these things see. And the idea is that it all looks like a very well-oiled machine without any issues, but there were a huge amount of issues on that film. There's a big, massive amount of money, over $1 million that we're waiting on, came about 6 months late, which is a a very, very big problem when you're trying to pay people and make a movie and keep things rolling. So that was incredibly stressful, waiting for that money to come through. And just in regards to the release of the film as well, I think this is probably the worst time to release a film in the history of motion pictures, during a time when cinemas are shut all over the world. Even in the Great Depression, cinemas weren't shut. You know, cinema was one of the highest performing industries during the Great Depression. So it sort of pointed out a few holes in the industry that no one thought were possible. And thankfully the film's doing pretty well considering what's going on with COVID and the pandemic and everything, but filmmaking is certainly not for the easily stressed out, that's for sure, because it's sort of constant. Awoken was released in the United States in May of this year, and we were supposed to have a theatrical release, which is very, very rare for an Australian film to get a theatrical release in the US, but it had to be cancelled because of the pandemic. And I had planned to go over there and do that whole thing, but that didn't happen. And we were fortunate enough to get a theatrical premiere in Australia for Awoken at the Adelaide Film Festival, which happened in October. Which was really exciting. The film is designed to be seen in a cinema, and it's a very different experience than it is watching on your phone or your laptop as people are watching movies now. So it was really exciting to see it back in the cinema and to see the response it got. And we sold out all the sessions, and it was really cool. And just also to see the cast and crew all back together again. And it was just, we hadn't seen each other for 2 years. You know, we shot the film in 2018. And it was just like we hadn't missed a beat. It was really, really exciting to see everyone again. So that was really nice.
Where to from here for Daniel J. Phillips?
Where to from here? Yeah, well, I'm continuing to run Anomaly, of course, and servicing some really nice clients and working on some really, really cool jobs. But more importantly, I'm attached to direct a bunch of films. I was fortunate enough to secure some management overseas, which has helped me get attached to a couple of films in the US, and I'm attached to a film here in Australia as well. And now we're in the process of all of those kind of scripts are ready to go. So we're just in the process now of trying to finance them and trying to get them off the ground. And it's an interesting time right now for the film industry. I think there's lots of people waiting to see what's going to happen, because it's a sort of in between two models. You've got the cinema theatrical model, and then you've got this new streaming model, which is really, really shaking everything up. So people are sort of a little bit hesitant to jump into projects.
I have 2 gifts for you.
Oh, wow. Wow, look at that. That's incredible. Headphones on fire. All right. That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's lovely.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for sharing your inspirational journey with us thus far. I hope this episode sets your passions on fire. Love to see you in the next episode. Head to inspiredby.com.au. Thank you so much for listening.